Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. It is 6:31. I'd like to call the meeting to order with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance
To the
flag of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
indivisible, under God,
Indivisible, liberty,
and justice.
This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law GLC 30A Section 20. And on March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed a supplemental 2023 budget bill allowing remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through March 31st, 2025. This meeting is being recorded. Welcome, everyone. Before we get started on our department budget meetings, I want to introduce, we have a new Finance Committee member that is here tonight, and his name is Duncan Law. And Duncan, welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karen, and everybody.
Yeah, I'd love to give you a chance to introduce yourself, let us know what brought you here to the Finance Committee as well.
Sure. So I've been in Westport for 30 odd years, built a house here in 1999, and retired here 3 years ago. Known Al Lees forever, and Steve Fours also forever. And Steve spoke to me last year, I guess, during the override times that he'd like to have me consider serving should a committee opening come up. And I was playing paddle with Steve on Saturday, and he said, "I've got the spot," and so here I am.
Great.
Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thanks for being here.
Good.
Did you get a chance to get sworn in? I know it's all quick, so you may not have, and that's okay if you haven't.
No, I'm still illegal, but I will do that tomorrow.
Okay, that's okay. So the only thing you're not able to do tonight would be to vote. And the only vote we're going to have tonight is to adjourn. So that's no problem. So you're not missing anything too key. We're not ready to adjourn yet. So, all right. Well, thank you and welcome. So look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you.
All right. So our budget meetings tonight, we have the beach committee, the beach budget. We have our IT budget and the assessor's budget. So Sean Leach is here from the beach committee, and he has another engagement to go to very shortly. So we're going to start off with Sean in the beach budget. So Sean, welcome. Thank you for coming. And maybe you can kind of give us an update on your budget and what's happening with the beach committee.
Okay, so I'm assuming everybody has or has seen the beach committee proposed budget for fiscal year 25-24. Last year we had a budget. We received a budget of $90,890. We did not anticipate something that happened at the beginning of our season last year. Actually, the previous year, we run a kind of a different type of budgeting where we do a calendar. We have a calendar year issue where fiscal year runs July to July. July to June 30th, we run January 1st. Our revenue starts January 1st and ends December 31st. So it's a little confusing sometimes about the different fiscal years. But anyway, we're requesting an increase, a significant increase this year, almost 32% from $90,000 to $123,000, to $123,750 due to two certain factors. One is the increase in salaries. We had to increase the salaries for lifeguards last year, probably 30 to 40% just to attract qualified personnel so we would have lifeguards. Because of that, it increased our personnel item significantly from $50,000 to $79,000 basically, which is basically the increase we're looking for. We have a couple other items that we've decreased and a couple other items we've increased and a couple of things we need to pay for. One is, if everybody's aware, we're going to an online beach pass system. That online beach pass system carries with it a price, and the price is $1 per sticker printing. So we're looking for $3,500, and then there's a $4,500 software subscription fee and service to be able to do that. The town clerk is implementing that, and hopefully we'll have that up and spinning very shortly. I know people have been anxious about getting their 2024 beach pass. It should be up. We're hoping mid-February. If you don't have a beach pass, a new beach pass, the old beach passes will be honored. We've also increased the beach passes from the senior pass from $15 to $25, and the regular beach pass from $35 to $50. That represents a significant increase to hopefully reflect a significant revenue to cover our costs to run the beach on a yearly basis. We do have an enterprise fund in which we withdraw our funds. We are withdrawing some funds to cover some of our items. We were in deficit last year at this town meeting. We're hoping that this budget that you see here will be covered. All the personnel and items that are needed. Do you want me to talk about the warrant articles, Karen, or should I not at this time?
No,
We-
let's hold off. Thanks, Sean. Let's talk about the budget first, and then you can go into the warrant articles. Just a question on the report that we have. So thank you, Sean. At the budget that we have at the bottom of it, it says that there's some budget offsets, and the total is $20,000. It shows recreation 5,000, and then it's got a blank that says 15,000, but there's no description on that. Do you know what, you have that in front of you to know what that means?
I do not have that in front of me, but I know what that means.
Okay.
The $5,000 is for Dana, who is the recreation director or director of recreation. I'm not sure of the title. She helped tremendously to become a point item that was there at the town hall to provide packages for lifeguards and get them all put together, and the time it takes to essentially get all their paperwork in place and verify the certifications they need, Red Cross certification, lifeguard certifications. So she spent and she deserves an award last year for spending time and helping us get through where we lost 8 lifeguards in April, and we had a hard time scrambling to find them, which is why we had to increase the area. But she helped tremendously last year and spent quite a bit of time. So that $5,000 is for that. $15,000 is typically what happens for the town clerk to process the beach passes. There's a lot of time taken. Hopefully this electronic online system will help that tremendously, but we anticipate some rough spots this year, being the first year we're going to do it. And it's also, I think it pays for some of the town accountants' fees, not fees, but time and effort to administer the enterprise fund.
Great, thank you. Sean, on that, so thank you for that. So on that topic, what about the time that the police spend for all of their time? Do you not help fund some of the police time?
We do not at this time. A lot of, obviously they wrote, and they didn't write many tickets last year, not as many as there were in the pandemic years. Pandemic years, they were running like 3,000 tickets. I think there were 1,300 and something last year. And at $50 a ticket, basically that goes in, well, the handicapped, which is one of the bigger things, goes to the disabilities committee, but the rest of it goes basically, I believe, into the general fund. And I don't know what that figure is. I don't know if Nicole, I think she's online. I'm not sure what the numbers are for the revenue. I think revenue is a bad word, or the monies that come in due to ticketing, but we do not. And the highway department also helps as far as the maintenance of certain things, and that is the roadway down. They clear it out every year. So that's something that we also don't pay for, but they do it as a service.
Mhm. Thank you. And then I see a question, but I just want to ask you one more question. So in terms of the revenue increases that you have for this year, so I see you just talked about that you're increasing the individual passes. What sort of overall additional revenue for the year will that bring in? So I don't know how many passes you.
Okay, we sell 4,400 passes, give or take a few here and there. 40%, which are senior passes, which is a large number of passes, which, you know, obviously we're only $15, I think. And then the rest, you do the math, you know, 2,600 or so are regular passes. And I think you have the revenue in front of you, and you have to look at 2 years of revenue, one January 1st to June 30th of last year, and then it starts July 1st. So there's a total in there, 120,000, I believe. But because of what we're running and what it costs to run the enterprise fund and everything, we're running at a deficit, obviously, for last year. So we're hoping that the beach pass increase will cover that deficit and also provide us funds for some of the capital expenses we need on a regular basis. That's life-saving equipment. And we're requesting on the line item this year, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, a vehicle for the lifeguards. But we don't know that the increase will not decrease the number of passes. We don't know if it's going to be 4,400 to 4,200, or it will not change at all, which would be great, or it will change significantly. So this year, we're expecting hopefully to have an increase to cover what our budget is for this year, including the administration costs.
So Sean, just thank you. So making the assumption that you sold 4,400 passes last year, and let's just, for the assumption that we'll sell 4,400 again this year. So based on that, I'm just trying to do quick numbers. So you said 40% of the passes were senior passes. So that's maybe around 2,000 passes.
Yes.
And you increased it $10. So that's about $20,000.
Right.
And then the other passes would be another 2,400 passes, and you've increased that $15, right? So just trying to get the math, Sean, to understand how much of your projected revenue you got, right? So if we said 2,400 passes times 15,000, that's 30. So 50, rough numbers, 56,000 is what your increased revenue would be from those passes.
Right.
Which,
and you're looking at a $33,000 increase in budget, and then $15,000. And we're, you know, like I said, we saved some of the money. We've built up a nest egg, and that we're going to need probably for East Beach in the near future, but enough to cover at least the expenses to run the beach, and then probably some incidentals to that we're going to need to improve the facilities down there.
right. Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you for that. So, Hugh, you have your hand up, so go ahead.
So I think you confirmed what I thought was the case, but let's make it clear. I think the beach committee is basically self-supporting in that the fees for the beach passes are dedicated for the beach operation. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
That your revenues in a year may not be what you have to spend, et cetera, but you aren't really relying on the general fund, shall we say, to operate the beach.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Hugh?
I was just saying this is more as a report, again, subject to confirmation, a report as to how the beach plans to be operated for the next year, rather than a budget that needs to be approved by as part of the distribution of taxpayer funds to support operations, right?
Correct.
You got the
Correct.
money. You got the money to begin with, and you hope it is sufficient. But if it isn't, that's next year's issue, shall we say?
Right. That's what I was trying to, right. That I was trying to understand the increase in the beach pass fees certainly are covering, Sean, your increases
Right.
in
We're
your
hoping it's not that
expenses,
it's all the
right?
same number of passes. Correct. Yeah.
Right. I think that might be Gary that has his hand
Yes.
up. Right.
Yes.
Right. Go ahead, Gary.
No, I just like to say, you know, is another department that does is looking outside the box for online payments, and I think it's time. It's due. You know, we've been kind of in the dark ages a little bit with what we do online, so to speak. Not speaking of like certain departments like the collector's office and all that that's had lockbox service now for a little bit. But I commend the beach committee and Sean for looking at It's just the way we do business now. You know, many people don't or can't get to the town hall, and they're at their computers, they're at their cell phones, and they can just do this, you know, at the convenience whenever they can do it. So this is just kudos to the beach committee and Sean for exploring that and implementing it.
I can't take the credit for what Kristen and Carla did at the town clerk's office. More than instrumental. But it's something we had the parking pass committee or something like that a couple of years ago where we looked into this, but now I think it's able to be done, and it'll be interesting to see how it works this year.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Sean, just a quick question. I know, just as Hugh mentioned, right, your fees, you increase your fees and you can cover some of your expenses. I mean, I'll be honest, I think your increases are modest, and I think you could have increased your fees more. But to help fund some more improvements that you could do for the town. I know no one likes fee increases, and I know I'll get chastised for saying that, but you know, a lot of the challenges that I think, as you know, the beach committee has had is parking and the police monitoring, or someone monitoring the parking lots and making sure people that shouldn't be parked there are not parking there, or they get towed. And I'm just curious why you wouldn't have built some expenses related to parking attendants into your budget and potentially have increased your fees to help cover those sort of additional expenses.
Good question. And we've discussed that for many years on the beach committee. The parking issue has seemed to settle down after the first year of the pandemic. It's become much more manageable because people have kind of understood what the issues are. We have 104 parking spaces and 4,000 beach passes. You do the math. You know, and it's worked out. We have no way of expanding. We do have a way to expand. It's very cumbersome permitting wise, but if we are discussing other things, we want to see if this is a point of diminishing return. We're the cheapest beach in Massachusetts, I think. It is a town beach. It is a very good beach. We're afraid of the point of diminishing returns, where if you get to a point where you're increasing the fees, do the numbers start dropping off, and then your revenues therefore go down. This is our first large increase in 7 years, I believe. Last one was only I think a $5 increase, but we foresee that it'll probably be, you know, looked at on a yearly basis, and we'll probably have to get to some point where it'll get something expensive. But we try to make it affordable for just families in the town of Westport. This is the one piece of paradise that everybody can afford to go to.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Gary, do you still have your hand up? Or is that from earlier? Gary?
I think that's from earlier.
Earlier. Go ahead, Cindy, you're up.
Well, you kind of took the question right out of my mouth. That was one question I had, including a parking attendant. But in addition to the day-to-day beach expenses, the revenue that's collected, you also have to save towards significant equipment purchases, correct?
Correct.
So to the extent that anyone should see balances or large balances going, oh, you know, you increased the fee and now there's all this money sitting there, you have to save up for beach vehicles and other maintenance issues that need to be taken care of, right? That are kind of beyond the scope of, you've got the that fencing project that needs to be done, right, at Town Beach?
Yes, yeah, we have several projects, and you know, and we always have surprises, and we've had 3 of them in the last 3 weeks. If anybody's gone to East Beach, that is right now unusable at the Town Beach, or even just to park there. And that would be a significant hit if we cannot restore that facility. That's one of the more popular facilities for both handicapped and elderly who like to just go down and sit and look at the ocean and get a nice ocean breeze without having to do what I call the trek down to Chariot Web. That's 1,000 feet up and down and over the dunes. So we're anticipating we're going to have to spend some monies over there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate exactly Cindy's point, your expenses are going up by 40,000, but your revenues modestly only going up by 56,000. So most of the revenue increase is really covering your costs, and you're not adding to your reserves or your coffers for those sort of equipment things. And that's why that was my question on potentially, you had an opportunity to increase more to kind of help. I'm not
Well,
looking to price it out for people, but just looking at your budget.
We've got some expenses in here that we know, equipment replacement, that type of thing. That's the rescue equipment we expect. That's in our budget line item here. We're expecting, and then occasionally something goes wrong, i.e. a truck blows up. In the middle of the year, we have problems. So that's why we go searching, and we put some in the enterprise fund. I understand, the revenue question, and I can appreciate that, but I also hear, at one point, you make the beach pass $1 million, so one pass and we're good for the year. I always use that analogy. And again, we're trying to keep it a family affordable beach and not a private beach club. And at some point it will be getting more expensive. There's no doubt. And that may be next year. We may do great this year. We may see how the increase affects the number of passes.
Great. Thank you. Al, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just very briefly, and it's really more than a suggestion, Sean, than any detail about the revenue expense side of things, because that's been pretty well covered. Maybe the beach committee should consider at some point at a future meeting, probably not for this year because we're already in the budget cycle, but for next year, pick a number. 85 years old, 88 years old, 90 years old. I'm thinking of my mother. My mother goes with a caregiver twice a season to sit at East Beach for 15 minutes. Whatever the number is. And is there, I don't know how many people that might be, but I'm guessing that it's probably a fairly small number of people that would qualify. And it may be not only a goodwill gesture, but at the same point, a sympathetic gesture for people that just occasionally want to go down there. And so it's a comment. It's not really a financial question as much as something to consider. That's all.
Right. We have considered all kinds of things when we worked with Martin Costa, trying to figure out how to do something similar to that. We just don't know how to execute that.
Right.
So.
Thank you. Hugh, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think your goal of keeping the prices as low as feasible is admirable. I think Baker's Beach is something like 1,500, and I know the Atlantic one over is a couple of thousand over the harbor, the other side. Now, those are different clientele, I understand, but inflation advances, and therefore everything gets more expensive. And something I think, well, you talk about keeping it down for everybody, that's fine. But I think you need to keep in mind that everything gets more expensive, and you have to adjust for that as well.
We don't exactly have, I would call it, first-class facilities. We have a first-class beach. We have first-class lifeguards, but we have porta-johns and, other places have outside showers and, various other things amenities that, you pay for the $1,500 you get. And maybe that's something we need to do. I know Little Compton Town Beach is much more. And if you look at Chatham, Plymouth, a lot of the town beaches, is much more, significantly more. And then there's the talk about resident versus non-resident passes and that type of thing.
That's all. I agree with all of that. I'm just saying that we tend, when we get older, to remember what things used to cost. We tend to forget how much they've gone up. Maybe Albert remembers, others, when gas was $25 a gallon. It isn't anymore. And that's just the way life is. So in terms of your desire to keep the prices down, that's admirable. I'm just saying everything costs more. And you have to keep that into account because it does flow across to the constituents that you're serving as well. That's all.
Yep.
Go ahead, Al. I was just gonna move into, go ahead, Al, you just raised your hand back up. Oh, there we go.
Do you have any concept, Sean, of there's 4,400 passes that are actually given out. Do you know how many applications there are?
Probably just a slightly number over.
Okay. So it's not there's not a big waiting list is my question.
No, there's never a waiting list. It's more of a either incomplete or not enough information on the beach pass,
Okay.
or someone trying to sneak it in. And
Okay. We don't need to belabor. I was just thank you.
All right, Sean, did you want to talk about your warrant articles before you head out, or do you have to head out? It's up to you.
I believe we have 2 articles.
Okay,
One is a request for $24,000 out of the Beach Enterprise Fund for capital improvements to replace the fence at Charing Beach. We had done this a couple of years ago, and somehow some money's got taken out of there. So now we're looking to replace 300 feet of fencing, which after these storms is like actually lying as a hazard along the path. And the second line item is a $25,000 to buy basically a gator. You see them at the state beaches. They tend to run about 21,000, but we just want enough to cover it. And what we're going to do is also rent a storage container to put it in next to the dumpster at the end of the road, so we can leave it there 24/7 for fire department, police, whoever may need to go down the beach, because the trucks, we get about 4 years out of the trucks before they start disintegrating. And 4-wheel drive trucks are very pricey. We've been inheriting and using, and we thank the highway department and the fire department for, the hand-me-down trucks. But we feel we need a reliable vehicle, because God forbid something should happen emergency-wise and we don't have a vehicle to get somebody off the beach.
great, thanks. Sean, do you go through the capital improvement committee for those?
Well, and that's where the taxpayer fund, so to speak, comes into play. We don't feel the need. We feel that we built up a nest egg in our enterprise fund to pay for some of these things. And we kind of anticipate that with increasing the revenue. We do not go through the capital improvement committee. We have in the past, and what typically happens if we go looking for funding that direction, it somehow gets taken away at town meeting, and then we're out on the street, essentially. Where this stuff is all, except for the fencing in this case, safety equipment, we feel that we can't afford to risk going to town meeting and not getting something that we really need.
Okay,
Karen,
No.
yeah, go ahead. I'm confused.
FYI, the Capital Improvement Planning Committee does have these items, though, on their list of things that are required to be purchased throughout the town. So even though it may not come from our free cash, the CIPC was aware of the needs of the beach committee and the items had been submitted to the CIPC for inclusion in the list of capital items.
Right, I get, and I appreciate that, but wouldn't it fall just like you just said? So any department would still put their request through you, but it wouldn't be funded by free cash. It'd be funded from a different source, right? So wouldn't the capital improvement committee still need to evaluate all the needs just as you do with all the other capital items, even though it's not coming from free cash? Or do you not do that when they're funded from other sources?
Well, things that are funded from their own funding source, I believe, I'm relatively new to the CIPC. They leave it up to the management of the committee that oversees those funds as to whether or not it's really, necessary, and how those funds will be spent. But yeah, that's kind of where that stands.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions for Sean before he heads to his next meeting?
I have to leave. I hate to run,
All
but
right, no more questions for Sean. That's it.
Thank you.
all right. Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
coming,
much.
Sean. Appreciate it.
No
Thanks,
problem.
Sean.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Thank you. All right. So we have two more budgets. We have the assessor and IT to, let me see who's here tonight.
Hi, good evening. This is Theo. I am
All right,
here.
Theo, good. You're up then. Let's do, introduce yourself and we'll do the assessor's budget. Thank you.
Great, thanks. My name is Theodora Gabriel. I'm the principal assessor, the full-time assessor. Our budget this year just had a slight increase of overall of 4%. The salaries, a major increase was on the full-time. We are trying to have a principal clerk going into assistant slash office manager. So that's where you see the 6% increase from the 95 to 101. So overall in these wages and salaries, about 3.5%. On the expenses, it's an overall 3% increase, actually 4% on the expenses. We increased at schools and meetings. I feel it's essential that, the staff is educated and up with the new laws, so we can assess properly. Also, the computer software, that includes Neomaps, which is a fairly new application that we have in our office, which other departments actually use, but that comes out of our budget. And so overall, our overall budget went up about 3.7%. As far as I don't know if you want me to speak about the 6-year, I did actually fiscal 26 to fiscal 30 estimated, expense, but our budget's pretty much straightforward as far as increases.
I love that you did a 5-year plan, so thank you for that. So it looks as though just looking at your 5-year plan, maybe you can talk for a moment about it. That would be terrific.
All right, so I just basically took about 2.5% on most of the items, an increase about 2.5%. Some I felt it might be a little bit more, maybe 3%, the ones that we really have no control over, such as the increase on software and obviously travel. And so pretty much that's what I did based on my experience of, having looking forward what we'd need at the end of, a 5-year plan. I don't see any major increases. I don't foresee that. So, as you can see, basically the increases are about, 3% increase average a year, assuming, everything stays, increases are not anymore on items that we have no control over. There is 1 year between fiscal 26 and 27 on the software. The reason there's a drop on that is we are in between. We are shifting over to different systems, and so at one point, one of our camera systems, whether it's the person property or the real estate camera system, right now we are budgeting for having 2 simultaneously systems at the same time. But hopefully, after we're done with all the conversions and matching all the data, that we will only need 2 software systems as far as the software annual fees. That's why you see the difference of like $10,000 between fiscal 26 and 27. So that's our goal, is to have everything converted over or updated and just pay for one, 2 software systems, which would be a person property camera and a real estate camera system. But other than that, it looks like it's just an average increase a year of about 3 to 4%.
Great. And so please, I'd like to thank you and thank your board for actually spending the time to think about your needs for the next 5 years and actually putting something down. So we all know this is estimated and there's so many variables that will change in the next 5 years, but it's greatly appreciated by me personally. And thank you for starting this process. And please thank your board for doing this too.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? So Al, you've got your hand up.
Karen, I would just echo what you just said. And in addition to that, Theo and the Board of Assessors, when I go out on the street or go to the store or wherever it might be, and I hear people complaining about their tax bill, you are absolutely doing a good job. I mean, it's a tough job, but clearly it's you're moving us back into or into kind of the current reality of assessments and so I just want to thank you for that. As painful as it is for me personally, I just do want to thank you for keeping on top of it.
Thank you for telling us that. I appreciate that. With this kind of position, you don't really have many friends. Just kidding. Our main goal is everyone pay their fair share. So, and it does take quite a, amount of work to do that, as long as we have the tools and the staff, and I think we're headed that way. And thank you
Great.
for that
Thank you.
comment.
Thank you. Hugh, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
I just want to say I see Jack McDermott pretty much every weekend and remind him that assessors have no friends.
Oh, boy. It sounds like we got to take Theo out for dinner some night.
That's okay.
Jack is one of your friends, but not in his full capacity.
No, overall, taxpayers in Westport are very, very, very nice, very friendly to me, so it's been a pleasure working for Westport.
Well, Karen, I was
Go ahead.
either that or take her out to dinner or put her in the witness protection program.
Any other questions for Theo on our budget? So Theo, you also have, so thank you for that. You also have an article that maybe while you're here, maybe we can talk about, so we don't have to invite you back once we get
Sure.
the warrant.
The article is usually it's an annual article. That's just to budget our cyclical inspection program. We need to have that in place in order to maintain our data and satisfy the DOR. And actually, most important is have our data as accurate as possible. So usually we request $40,000, but this year, because we've had such a, we've done quite a bit of cyclical inspection the past 3 years. So for this year, we're only request 20,000. That should be, we should be able to maintain, do full measure and lift on about 750 properties within this year with the 20,000.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Theo?
Nope.
No, I think we're all good. Thank you. Theo, thank you for coming in tonight. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.
All right. So our next budget we have tonight is our IT budget, and we have Keith Novo here. Hi, Keith. Where are you? I know you're here. There we go. Hi there.
Hi.
So Keith, thank you. We have your terrific budget memo that you did, so you don't need to walk us through every line item. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your budget?
Okay. Keith Novo. I'm the IT director for the town, for all the town departments here, including the police and fire. So as you said, I did submit my budget, working in conjunction with the town administrator. Several of the increases were in my discussions with him. He was looking for some, for some additional help there. So you'll see under the wages and salaries, I added in approximately $10,000 to get an additional part-time worker to help with a lot of the day-to-day things that the typical town employees would encounter. So that would be to if someone, he was really looking for someone to be able to go into an office and have people see that that they have a lot of paper copies and things, and how can we scan all those and create databases and kind of make electronic things of that. So we were looking for a person to help with that, to help with, kind of end user, how to use a spreadsheet, how to create a spreadsheet or a database, those kind of things. So it's kind of more cost effective to have someone, with those type of skills versus myself, having to do something like that. So, so that was the increase for that. The other increase that we did have in there, you'll see for professional services. We implemented this past year kind of a help desk. Online help desk where people can call in and get, have an issue, help them resolve, those type of questions. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week. So any of the town employees can call and get assistance on their, on their computer there. So that was the increase. Other than that, the other line items were essentially the same from the prior year. So I don't know if there was some questions on that, but.
Does anyone have any questions for Keith on his budget? Go ahead, Christopher.
Yes, thank you very much, and Madam Chair, and thank you, Keith, for being here tonight. So I did just want to kind of go into a little bit more detail with the help desk situation here. So I'm curious, has this already been implemented, and if so, how often has it been used by town employees thus far?
It has been implemented in place. It started in the new fiscal year, so that's in place. I haven't looked at the report recently. I mean, it is being used by town employees. I'm getting reports from people that saying that they called, that they had their problems resolved and moved on, and they were able to move on. I haven't pulled a report recently, but that was one of the things that I need to look at. So I can't give you an answer a specific answer at the moment.
Understood. And I would like to ask, so as far as the additional part-time help, what, you had mentioned that there was the thought of perhaps digitizing a lot of paper and whatnot, and then you mentioned that there would also be to solve issues as they come up with from town employees. My question is, based on that description, it seems like there might be a little bit of overlap between some of the need for a part-time worker with the help desk service. So I just kind of want to clarify that and see if like I said, just seems like there's a little bit of overlap. So I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's possible that there could be some overlap, but ideally, this person would be helping, solve new problems, not, moving forward. Like I said, digitizing things, helping with web pages, we're looking to get new permitting system, helping with those type of implementing the permitting and helping the departments, move forward with that. So ideally, I mean, they would be helping resolve some of the new future, not quite issues, but, just helping people kind of move the various departments forward into the current age here with technology.
Okay. So I appreciate that very much. What I would say at this point is, and I'm not picking on your department specifically. I do think that we are in a point now where we don't necessarily have a perfectly balanced budget at the moment due to some uncertainties with some other potential expenses and potential budgets. I want to feel a little bit more comfortable than I do now with this addition for a part-time worker. I want to be more clear that it's not overlapping something, because that is although I certainly agree that having the help desk is the help desk service certainly a useful thing. That is a significant increase over previous budget, and I just want to make sure there's no overlap if all of this does end up coming to fruition. I do have one other question just about the telephone line item, and this is actually more in relation to this line item appearing on other town department budgets. I'm actually curious, is this the overall maintenance of the entire system, or is this a department specific telephone system? I'm just wanted a little bit of clarification on that if possible.
The telephone system is a townwide system. So for the maintenance, I pay for the maintenance on that. I pay for the digital lines associated with that. So probably 95% of the town uses the digital infrastructure, basically what they're called SIP trunks, that we provide the call, all the calls in and out of the town. There's still a few departments that for whatever reason, they still have a phone or more specifically a fax line. So some of the analog lines are still in place for faxing. Some people just, still want to have that fax capability. But other than that, the overall phone system, the IT department pays for.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all that I had at the moment. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Before we go to the next question, and I know Cindy's got her hand up. Keith, can you just clarify on the help desk part of Christopher's question? You're a one-man shop, right? So, and you're not a full-time employee, and so you're responsible for all employees, and you're really the only person. So is this help desk also other sets of hands so if you're not free and available, that there's other people that can help, that the town's not totally relying our IT on you, the one person? Can you maybe clarify that a little?
Yeah, that's correct. They're, another set of eyes and hands to help really put them in place to help the day-to-day calls that someone, they're having trouble printing, they can call the help desk and ask for that question or what have you. Whereas I maintain the overall infrastructure, all the servers, all the, the firewalls, all of that stuff. This help desk also helps me to monitor those things. So when there's a problem, I get alerts and things that say that there's a problem, and that, I can go troubleshoot those and resolve those. And they're an extra set of eyes that I can use to help me, troubleshoot, the bigger problems, the building problems versus the individual problems. So.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. Cindy, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, so along that same vein of what Christopher was referring to, could you provide us with a log of the help desk calls? I know that you don't have them available to you, but could you produce a log of sorts and send it on to the committee so we could just have that for our own information?
Yeah, I can have a report
Okay.
pulled and I can send that. Yeah.
Okay, and I think it's also important to note that last year, fiscal year 24, there was a doubling, in fact, almost of your salary in anticipation of your providing more additional hours. And it looks like you've cut back your own hours. So the addition for the part-time worker of 25,000 is diminished somewhat by the decrease in your own salary. That's correct?
There was a perceived increase, yes, and we thought it would be beneficial to use some of that towards this potential new part-time salary. Yes.
Okay, so for example, last year it was approved that your salary was going to 74,000. You were going to take a less than part-time role and expand your role. But now this year, your salary is showing here is being decreased down to 61 and change. That's somewhere in between, I guess, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you won't be expanding your hours as much as you had anticipated. Will there be, one last question, will there be an article, and we can talk about that separately, we don't have to talk about the article, but is there going to be an article for funding other broadband this year, do you know? The town-wide broadband?
We have a meeting coming up next week. We were going to discuss that more on what we needed to do. I have submitted, I have submitted some requests to the capital improvement to work on some of that.
Right,
Also looking at federal and state grants that are coming available to help fund some of that as well.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Duncan, go ahead. You've got your hand up.
Yeah, hi Keith. I noticed one of your line items in there was about kind of end of life for one of the back office pieces of software. I think it would be really useful to look on a broader from a broader perspective over the next 5 years as to, do we have other pieces of software that are going to become end of life that we're going to have to replace, or we're going to have to move to the cloud, or what have you, that could be significant expenses. So it'd be good to have a view into that, looking out over a longer period of time.
Okay. Yeah, we do look at that. I've made recommendations to move certain applications to the cloud. And that's being looked at, as particularly like the accounting collectors software there. That's something that we're hoping that will happen. We recently got a grant for permitting cloud-based software, so we're looking to put a lot more of the permitting application process up in the cloud, making it more accessible for the community as a whole. So we are kind of looking at all of those.
Great, thanks.
Anything else, Duncan?
No, I'm all set.
All right, great. Thank you. Al, you've got your hand up.
But you're just either a point of clarification or expansion. Keith, your position is, I hate to use the word, but it's what everybody keeps using. Your position is on the town side. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So therefore, the town as a whole, the taxpayers as a whole, are paying for IT not only for Keith and his budget and position, but also internally at the school department. So it's taking nothing away from what you're recommending or suggesting, but I just want to just throw it out there that our IT expense, and it will continue to grow. I mean, as the cloud and as IT gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more integrated in our lives and complicated, we have two, not competing, but parallel universes of IT within the town of Westport. And have you and or your compatriot on the other side sat down and tried to figure out if there's any way of merging certain systems, not all, but let's just say the call desk, for example, to save the time. I think Cindy's point, and then I'll end it, is a good point. We pay X amount of dollars. How many actual calls do we have? And is there a way of paying those same X amount of dollars and integrating it into both systems? So I'll leave it at that, but I just think it's worth thinking about.
Okay.
Just going to interject. Do you know if the schools have a help desk item in their software? Do you know if they use help desk 24/7?
I don't. I personally don't know
Okay,
that. No.
I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to the point, I will say, I mean, the work at large is the work at large in general. I mean, we have servers that need to be maintained. We have computers that need to be maintained. We have networks that need to be maintained. So someone has to maintain those, and there's a level of effort associated with that, whether it's town equipment or school equipment. I like to think that I'm pretty efficient at what I do. I have 12 sites, that I'm responsible for. A lot of hardware, a lot of software, probably more than, I know more than the school department. So, again, I'm one person, and I don't know what the final number of people is at the school, but I know it's significantly more than one person. So I would venture to say that I'm probably, from a town perspective, keeping the value going for what I do.
Thanks, Keith. Gary, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, when we go around the room, we talk about getting bang for the buck in these departments. I think Keith is a prime example of how we get that and how he manages the department. And, I've been on this committee for a while now, and I think he's done all he could to get that accomplished. The only question I had, Keith, was, does the town now have I know with cybersecurity and everything else that's going on, insurance policy in place? Not only insurance, but like with two-factor authentication. Are we at that level, or are we not there yet?
We're getting there. I mean, there is some insurance in place. I know that I've had to fill out forms for the town administrator, so there is some sort of cyber insurance in place. I don't specifically know what who does that, but we do have endpoint protection. We have antivirus protection. We have continuous backups of all the systems. We have cyber training that's running regularly. We do all of that. One of the things that I have to do is start implementing two-factor authentication. So that's one of the things that's on my list to do this year, is to implement that. So to Al's point,
I mean, this isn't just this is not going to get cheaper. This is going to be something, I think, that as more and more pressure is put on security for cyber, the town will just have to spend that much more money so that we're compliant. There's no risk. There's no risk of fraud. I mean, the banking side with the treasurer's office, it goes on and on. I mean, it's no fault of the town. It's just the world we live in now, and we don't want to be caught with like the city of New Bedford, having ransomware. We got to pay millions of dollars for an issue where we could be up front and take care of this now. So, I think you're proactive. I think you do a great job as a one-man band. And I appreciate what you've done for the departments over the years.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. I've got a question for you. I know one of the things you're talking about is the document management system and trying to help convert paper, so they're for record retention purposes. So, in my world that I work in my day job, I'm in the finance role, and so lots of paper. But a few years ago, I drew a line in the sand and we stopped paper and we went totally paperless. So we have still the issue of all the historical stuff, but we drew a line in the sand and everything going forward is paperless. So we have control over that, and we have good records retention and everything's in the cloud. So I'm curious, and I can only speak for me as the finance committee, right? So all our documents that we collect are electronic, and we store them in your Google Cloud, which is the town cloud. So we're helping you comply, right, with records retention, because it's being done by us as the committee. And I'm curious to know if other committees are doing that, or if you can help give guidance to other committees. So this way you're drawing that line in the sand. So everything from today forward is paperless, and then you're just having to worry about the historical stuff. But what I see happening is there's paper still being generated everywhere. So this monster of a task just keeps growing and growing and growing, because you just keep accumulating more paper. And I'm wondering if you're able to provide some guidance or work with some structure, or maybe change so that committees start to incorporate those sort of
Mhm.
paperless activities?
Well, I mean, I've started putting the tools in place, right? So we have the Google Drive, so everything can be kept up in the cloud. That everything's there. I can make those recommendations. Unfortunately, I can't make anyone use the tools that I give them. I mean, that's really going to have to come from someone higher than me. So all I can do is, again, give them the tools. One of those tools would be like a document management system. So, and what that would look like. So do want to look at figuring out what that is and how we can, better utilize that. Right now, we can scan things and put them up in the Google Drive and, create folders and all those things. That's the kind of the first step. But a real document management system is going to put meta tags on everything, labeling out what's fiscal year 24 and 23 and what's FinCom and what's, planning and all those things. So you can better search on them later and say, I remember a meeting, back in 22 at FinCom and something came up, and then you could be able to search on that and pull up all the records. That's a complex system, to procure, to set up, and then to kind of convince everyone to use, because there are still some people that really, really, really like that paper, just like they really, really like the fax machine versus, internet. So there's some people that, can require some coaxing to kind of move forward there.
Yeah. No, but I think about other committees and that are dealing with paper, and from a records retention standpoint, or I wonder from, a public document standpoint, if people are doing paper, is that paper making its way to town hall? And is it, if the town needed to produce it, is it available to be produced if somebody asked for it, right? So if it's paper and it's a committee and it's in someone's house, right? How does, and then how does, when it's paperless, you help guarantee that the town can access those public records. And I know that's not all your responsibility, but
Yeah,
I
no,
know
I
you're
agree.
providing the tool, but I think then, the other step is making the tool known and trying to figure out a way to how to incorporate more people using the tool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that's not you, but all right. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I think that's Gary again, has your hand up. Sorry,
No,
Gary.
I put it down.
No,
I put it down.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
Nicole.
Oh,
It's Nicole
okay.
and Al.
Al and then Nicole, and then I think someone from the public wants to ask a question, so they can certainly raise their hand, and it's already up. Perfect. Go ahead, Nicole.
I thought Al was first.
I'm not
No,
sure.
I just wanted to make a comment that
Thank you.
I agree, we need to put more things in the cloud and do more paperless things, but you'd have to do the research on the records retention for the public documents to see what has to be paper and what can be, printed out document, like original signatures and things like that. So, I mean, it's great that we can do that, but you just have to make sure that we're following all, Mass General laws with record retention. So that, I'm all for putting stuff. There's way too much paper. I'm all set with paper.
Yeah, Nicole makes a good point. There's still a lot of antiquated laws from the Secretary of State that require physical handwritten papers. One being like the commitments that come over to the collective payroll items. Those have not ever been looked at on a state level to come down to the local level and say, okay, yeah, you can put that online with electronic signatures. And whether that happens, who knows? I mean, it's just kind of stuck in the dark ages with that.
Yeah. Thank you. So, Carrie Kuna, you have your hand up. So, if you can introduce yourself and ask your question.
Hi, Keith. I'm Carrie Cunha. We've emailed a couple times back and forth. My question is about the part-time employee. I'm under the impression by watching this that he's not going to have the exact same job description that you have. He's going to be more of on a lower level, dealing more with the littler issues, updating software, like you said, and those types of things, but you're going to keep a higher level.
That's correct. I would envision that person not having the same skill set that I have, for maintaining the overall system, servers, firewalls, and that. They'll have a different skill set, an important skill set, but something that isn't quite what I would be doing.
Okay, another question, just so I can kind of get an idea of what exactly this person would be. I know they have a very good IT program at New Bedford Voc, and the students do come out knowing how to code and program. And would someone like that fit this position?
Potentially, yeah. Someone that knows some basic programming, someone can help with, web pages and web development, someone that could help do simple databases, maybe some complex spreadsheets. Someone along that lines, I think, would be beneficial. Someone that can sit down, with good communication skills, can sit down with the department and say, okay, what do you have here? Let me see if I can figure something out to make it more efficient, to make it organized, to make it electronic, whatever the proper adjective is, and
Right.
and help them with that. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm going to email you again. I have some follow-up questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'm still writing up the stuff that you requested.
Well, I might not need it now if he's,
Okay.
yeah, it would be better actually if you could send me what he would need, what this person would need.
Okay.
I
And,
appreciate it. Thank you so much, Keith.
Sure thing.
Great. Cindy, you've got your hand up.
I'm not sure if this is the same issue that perhaps Carrie is referring to. Have you and the town administrator worked on a job description for this position yet?
I have spoken with them on it, obviously, but I haven't come up with a specific job description yet. No.
Okay, so that will have to go before the personnel board.
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yes.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Go ahead, Gary.
Why would, so is this going to be like it's going to be the assistant, Keith? Is that what we're going to call it?
We call I don't know what you would call it. I mean, just a part-time worker, assistant, I guess. I don't know what the proper term would be.
So why would that not be in the union?
Part-time, Gary.
We don't have part-time workers in the union?
No, I don't think so. It only covers full-time. Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong. It only covers full-time.
We have a couple of part-time in the union that were negotiated. We have two definite ones, but that's because we took one position and split it into two. Other than that, the union is all full-time workers.
Okay, I was just curious.
All right. Does anyone else have anything for Keith? Otherwise, I think, let's see, no other questions. Well, Keith, thank you very much for coming in tonight, or not coming in, but being here. Maybe we'll see you again if there's a warrant article. If not, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Keith.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Keith. Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is our recurring one that we have, the discussion of the fiscal 25 budget or 5-year operating or capital plan. I have no updates, so I don't know if anybody has anything to share, but the town administrator hasn't done any, there's been no updates to the select board's budget. There's been no news from the state in terms of the next round of state aid. So nothing new so far. Gary, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I think maybe Cindy answered. I don't know if she answered this last week, but Has CIPC, they haven't voted on any of their articles. I mean, they haven't voted on any of the, right?
We just did last Thursday, so
Oh, okay.
that list will be coming forth, I believe, with the town administrator when he delivers the budget. What is that, February 6th or something like that? So we just did vote
Right.
on it last Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Al, you've got your hand up.
I do. I don't have a particular update, but I do, excuse me, I just want to report that I have spoken a couple of times to Chris Leonard at the, whatever they call themselves now, the Marine Services, about the 5-year update and plan and how to formulate it. And I've been in preliminary discussions with Chief Baldwin on the same thing, and they are already working on that. Now, when it comes, how it comes, or whatever, I don't know, but no pun intended, they're both on board. So I just want to say that at least those two, and my other liaison, which is Theo, she's already come up with her own prior to me speaking with her. So I think at least those three are in the works. So that's all. I just wanted to report back.
Great, thank you for that. And that's, I know the town administrator is doing it from the top level, kind of on the surface, but it's important to gather all the department's feedback and really, really get into the details more.
Karen, can I make a comment? I think what was nice was the first time I've ever seen it on the committee, when the Board of Assessors and Theo had like a 5-year outlook. I think that was, maybe that's something going forward that we asked, maybe preliminarily the departments put together, and we kind of reconcile that back to what the town administrator has, maybe in future budgets. Yeah, I think it's very important.
Well, this year we asked every single department to provide us a 5-year plan if they could. And so that's the first one that we've seen, which is terrific.
Yeah.
So we already started to make the request out there. We didn't require it. We didn't, but just even if it was even in narrative form, I think is helpful. So even if someone can't put all the numbers down, but just speak to where you think your department is heading in the next 5 years. That will go a very long way.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. Cindy, you got your hand up?
I bring this up because it's one of my departments, my liaison department, and that's the Board of Selectmen department. We never really go through their department budget with them. For several years now, we've never actually gone through the select board and the town annex budget. It kind of gets submitted with the rest of the budget, but I don't think we have the town administrator speak directly to those specific budgets. So he's not scheduled. So we'll have to make sure that when I haven't paid much attention specifically to that budget yet, but when he does come in, if there are specific questions, because I know, issues come up with the annex all the time because of the maintenance issues at the annex, and certainly some of the line items in the select board budget. So I think that we should spend a little bit of time when he presents the overall town budget, speaking specifically about the select board and the town annex.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. We didn't put those budgets on that, but absolutely, when he comes in, he can talk about those budgets.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have to call him in
Right.
but
I get it. Sure.
perfect. We'll make sure we'll make sure you remind us when he comes in.
We'll grill him on that.
Yeah.
And the legal budget too. I mean, he's responsible for the legal budget too, isn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So if nothing else, the next item is any committee or liaison updates. Does anyone have anything to share of interest?
Well, in relation to Gary's question, CIPC did vote last Thursday on the budget. I think I alluded to it last week that out of the 2.3 allocation of free cash, the CIPC felt that using $1 million of the 2.3 for capital expenditures would be in line. It's generally, depending on how much is available for free cash every year, it's generally about $1 million a year that they spend, maybe a little bit less, 750, depending on how much is available. So the allocated items, you will see total about just about $1 million on the button.
Mhm.
Also, personnel, I don't know, you want to speak about that, Cindy?
Sorry, Personnel Board, we've begun the salary, the compensation study of all the employees. There was a call that was launched today, as a matter of fact, to kind of kick that off. Employees will be asked to fill out some forms detailing some of their work issues, things that they contemplate, may change with their job. Certainly with the emphasis on, this is not an effort to see if we can streamline positions. This is solely an effort to try to make sure that we can match the employee to the proper classification and the proper compensation for the job that they do. This is not in any way an effort to try to eliminate any position. So hopefully that's going to be done prior to town meeting. We should have the finished product sometime in late March, early April. So we're excited to see that where we come out in that survey. The selection of the company that's doing the survey, GovHR, was made in very large part due to the vast number of surveys that this company has done of area towns. Part of the survey, and many surrounding towns have done the same thing, is to see how much you're in competition in your area for the same type of worker with the same type of classification, and are you at an advantage or disadvantage with the amount of money and or benefits that we may be paying. So, I'll just take, senior clerk in town hall in Westport. Where do they stack up versus a senior clerk in, Dartmouth, perhaps, Acushnet, maybe as far away as even Seekonk or Swansea or Somerset, and to see where we might stack up with that, to see where the threat may be for us to be not attracting quality workers or losing workers to some of these other locations. So it's going to be very interesting to see. We're at the very beginning of it. So I look forward to being able to deliver that product to the Finance Committee once it's complete. We did also approve the job description for the new for a deputy police chief. This past week, the retirement of the chief also coincided with the retirement of the deputy chief of police, which required an upgrade. I shouldn't say an upgrade, and a change in the job description to bring it up to modern standards regarding training and educational standards. So that was very important that be covered. So hopefully the chief will be well on his way to be able to appoint a new deputy chief.
Great, thank you for the update. Al, do you have your hand up?
I do. For just a brief second, I just want to, as part of the CIPC and the so-called free cash, which we all know how much I love that term, I really want to do a shout out to taking a portion of the money, and I believe that Susan Brayton brought this up at a previous meeting, or she is going to, so I may be outing her on this, about an annual amount of money that goes into free cash, which continues to build interest so that we can build a kitty for a large project or large projects plural when it comes to capital expenditures. Right now, we have been running for a long time, and this is obviously I'm fairly new to the group, but I'm not stupid, and we are going hand to mouth and have been going hand to mouth for an awfully long time. So I just want to make sure that part of our discussion when it comes to this is putting a kitty together and thoughtfully expend money and matching it against capital needs programs, so that we're not just always chasing money at the town meeting and having a stacked deck, if you will, at the town meeting to grab whatever quote unquote free cash it might be and let everyone in the lurch.
Al, that was absolutely discussed at CIPC, and it's really within more the purview of the select board to have an article submitted for the annual town warrant to be included, to have that funding mechanism. The town, whether it be the select board or otherwise, we have no ability to fund that stabilization fund. This would be a capital stabilization fund. We have no ability to fund it without the vote of town meeting. So if town meeting decides to spend that money for other reasons before it ever hits that bucket, that's beyond anyone's scope. So it's certainly something that's been discussed, and the select board will take that up as to whether they're going to include that in their list of warrant articles.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks, Cindy, for that. Yeah, good.
You.
Go ahead, Hugh.
I was just going to say, I have no opposition to it, but the expression, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, comes to mind. You got to have the money that's left over from other things, and I don't think we have that, but nonetheless. I'm just going to say, Cindy had already touched on this point, but I'm meeting with Chris Dunn at the end of the week, and we are aware that John Bell and Keith Pellick have retired. And so I'll know more about where we are going in that area after that meeting.
Great, thank you. If no other liaison updates, I'll move on to almost our last item on the agenda. The next item is the minutes. We have the minutes of January 9th, 2024 to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
Okay.
Karen, I would just suggest, and this is so minor, it's almost ridiculous to even say. My last name is spelled Lees with an S, not L-E-E.
It is not insignificant. Having your name right is very significant.
So that's my comment.
Thank you. Do we have a second? I'm not sure. We had a motion.
Yeah, Gary seconded it.
Okay, great.
I think you did.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we do have a second?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So if we can make, any other discussion on the minutes, so we'll make sure Al Lee's name is correct. I had a very small comment that I noticed just when I was reading the minutes. Jess, at the top of the minutes, it made reference that I came into the meeting late, but I think that was a holdover from a previous set of minutes. So I think I was on time for last week. So if you could remove that notation.
Okay, no problem.
Great, thank you. If no other comments on the minutes, we can make the motion subject to those two changes and approve the minutes. I can do a roll call. Any other changes to the minutes?
No.
Okay. All right, I will do a roll call. Al?
Al Lees, I with an S.
Thank you. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Michelle?
Michelle?
Is Michelle still here?
Yep.
Oh, yep, she is.
Motion for the minutes. You say I'm not sure. There you go. Is your volume on? Can't hear you.
She's unmuted, but we just can't
Right.
hear her.
Here, right.
All right, well, I'm going to keep going. Zach,
Zach LeBrew, aye.
thank you. Christopher,
Christopher Thrasher, aye.
Gary,
Did you say Gary?
I did say Gary.
Yes.
Thank you. Cindy,
Cindy Brown, no E at the end. I.
thank you. And Karen, I. Is Michelle back? Can you, would you like to vote? If not critical, if we can't hear you. She just texted and said, sorry, not sure of the issue, but she said, I, Michelle Orlando. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, so we've got one more set of minutes. It's the December 5th, 2023 minutes. The Finance Committee received an open meeting law violation of those minutes. And the minutes reflected an adjournment vote that we did, the minutes reflected as all in favor 5-0, but we didn't indicate in the minutes who those 5 people members were that voted in favor. So we have since changed our minutes to make sure that we're incorporating each person's vote. So we just need to re-vote on these. So we did update these minutes to reflect of the 5-0 vote, who were the 5 members that voted affirmatively to do that. So if I could get a motion to approve these updated minutes.
Motion to
So
approve as amended, E. Morton.
Thank you. A sec, do
I'll
we have a
second.
second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other discussions on the minutes? No. Okay. I will do a roll call vote on these minutes. Al,
Al Lee is aye.
Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Michelle. Michelle texted and said affirmative. She voted aye. Zach,
Zach, aye.
thank you. Christopher,
I will actually vote to abstain. I believe that's the meeting where I had to leave early to catch a flight. So I think that's why it was 5-0 in any way. So I'm just going to abstain from this vote. Just
that's fine. Thank you. Gary, Cindy,
Cindy Brown, aye.
thank you. Karen Rouse, aye. Gary, are you want to vote on this or not?
Gary is no longer here.
He's no longer here, so that's it. Okay, so topics for next meeting, we're still doing the same thing. Department meetings is the primary focus. Our meeting schedule, just to remind everyone, we're meeting next week, January 23rd, same thing, 6:30 remote. We have no meeting on January 30th, so that's great. And then on February 6th, we resume with department meetings and we'll be meeting with the school at that time. The only other potential meeting we had discussed if we had a joint meeting again with the select board and members of the school committee. I think we had a tentative date at the end of January, and that would be subject to getting more information from the state aid to have a better indication of the budget. So, but that's our meetings as of right now. Correspondence, no correspondence for since last week. I have no topics that came up within 48 hours. And does anyone have anything else before we adjourn?
No
Great. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
calendar for the date that we're not meeting.
What's that? What did you say, Al?
I said I'm trying to figure out what to do with the night that we're meeting.
I think you'll figure something out. All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I will go around, and Duncan, we look forward to your getting sworn in so that you can participate in these really intensive votes that we're doing right now. But they'll be coming up soon, so we'll have some good meetings, some things to vote on really soon. Al,
Thank you.
Yes,
thank
Al,
you. Thank you. Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
thank you. Michelle,
You says yes.
same thing. She says yes. Thank you. Zach,
Aye.
Christopher,
Christopher Thrasher, aye.
thank you. Gary's gone, so nothing from him. Cindy,
Cindy Brown, aye.
great, and Karen Rouse, aye.